The firearm safety rules we use at Gunsight have almost become universal because we've been preaching this for a long time, and they have spread, which is a very good thing in my opinion. Rule number one, all guns are always loaded. We don't say treat every gun as if it is loaded. For us, it's a statement of fact. All guns are always loaded. Treat them with the respect a loaded firearm is due. The only gun that's unloaded is the one that you have personally checked and hasn't left your control. Rule number two is never let the muzzle cover anything you're not willing to destroy. I was teaching a ladies class one time and said that, and about 80 hands shot up. Well, it wasn't 80, but it was a bunch. And they said, "What's the muzzle?" Good question. We need to talk about that. The muzzle is the end of the barrel the bullet comes out of. So we want to be sure that we're not pointing the gun at anything that we don't want to destroy, anything that might be important to us. If your hand is important, don't put your gun, point your gun at your hand. Don't put your hand in front of the muzzle. Your foot, your leg, your friends, your cat, your television. Be sure of what you're pointing the gun at. Never let the muzzle cover anything you aren't willing to destroy. Rule number three we call the golden rule, because it's probably the most important of all, is keep your finger off the trigger unless your sights are on the target. When you're up on target, your finger can be on the trigger. As soon as the gun comes off target, the finger must go straight. Now, what do we all do when we pick up a gun? Go to a gun store, go to a gun show, and watch people handling firearms. As soon as they pick them up, they put their finger on the trigger. That's where it belongs, isn't it? No, you've got to learn to keep the finger off the trigger. And we only fire, we only put the finger on the trigger and fire when we intentionally mean to do so. Then the last rule is be sure of your target. Know what you're shooting at, know what's beyond it, know what's going to happen if the bullet goes through it. Adherence to those four rules is critically important, and even applying one of them can usually cause a disaster from happening. If you unintentionally fire the gun, but it's not pointed at anyone or anything, no harm, nobody dies. It's not a bad thing. So yes, applying all four of those rules. If you apply all four, you can't possibly have an accident with a firearm. But even the application of one or two will usually prevent a disaster from happening.